Hey there, folks. So I wanted to offer you some tips that have to do with walking in the trail, right? It sounds so ridiculous. I'm walking on the trail. How hard could this be? What do I need strategies for? So if you encounter a trail like this, right, no problems. There's no scary rocks. There's no scary roots. There's nothing going on. It's pretty much just a really nice, we'll call it recreational trail, right? This wouldn't scare anybody. But sometimes we're going to come across some things that make us have to make decisions. And there's some different strategies that I want you to think about to avoid roots, rocks, and then also how to conserve energy. That doesn't seem like it should be super important, but it depends on the duration of your hike. You know, how many miles am I going to go today? And what kind of things do I need to keep in mind so that I'm not all tuckered out and still have a long way to go from the car? So wanted to go over in this just a couple of strategies. I'm on my way to the Hugh Blind Tower, but I started at Penwood, crossed 185, a lot like being in a version of the video game Frogger, and I'm taking the blue and red trail up to the summit. This is still blue, so it's part of what they call the New England Trail or the Metacomet Trail. And this below part down here, awesome, lovely, nothing scary, nothing that should bring fear into your heart. But as we get further up here in the trail, I want to show you some decisions that we can make that will certainly make the day much better, just so that you can avoid anything that looks like a slip and a fall, or just conserve your energy on longer days. Hey, so here's another thing that we find when we're out in the woods. Don't get me wrong, I love rock scrambling. I think it's fun. And we've come upon this big rock here. And if you notice the way that the blue markers go, they're showing you that the trail legitimately goes up and over this rock. Now, most of the time, you can find, if you look a little bit to one side or to the other, I'll call it a herd path. It's not going to be marked, but this might be a bypass around something that maybe you don't want to go around. Maybe you're in recovery, maybe you're brand new, and you're kind of looking at this and going, yeah, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about that scramble. So you prefer the bypass. Bypass is another great way to consider conserving energy also. Not discouraging you rock scramblers. I like it on most days. Today, I'm going to take the herd path over here and go around what is the trail marking. You do want to be careful though about making sure that you are staying on the trails and not doing too much bushwhacking. A lot of that has to do with erosion, and sometimes when we make a path somewhere that really isn't a path, it creates further problems. But I'm going to head up this way. So kind of going up, I'm all about an escalator. If I can find a shorter way up sometimes, or a smoother way up, so that's looking back at what we just came up, that might be a good solution for you. And then when we turn, we just go overhead and look, and we notice that we've got a blue blaze right there, so we are back on the trail. So if you get in front of something that is, looks a little intense, or looks like something that you're not super good at, look for the bypass. So here's a good example of when you come up to an area that has a whole lot of roots, and you might not have a bypass option when you're doing the roots. So here's my advice to you about roots. Do your best to not stand on them, especially, because sometimes when you go to put your foot down on them, you can slip off, and that could be really bad. So especially if the root is on a slant, like if we look at this guy over here. So if you chose this root to step on, you could actually slide right off of here, and then that could create a problem. So what you want to try to do is go in between the roots. So if you can find ground that takes you in between and you don't have to step on the roots, that's probably your best bet. And I say that even in dry weather. Sometimes even, you know, depending on what time of day. So if you're here really, really early and there's still, you know, just the evening dew kind of happening, the roots might be wet. So again, I'm not going to step on this guy. I'm going to step around him. I'm going to come over here, do my ramp thing. But I'm going to try to avoid stepping on top of roots. And obviously there's some places where you just can't change that. But for our purposes, do your best to avoid stepping on roots.